All right. Looks like it's recording. What's up, everybody? I'm here with Shannan Maxwell. If you didn't see, Shannan is an incredible agent that I've had the pleasure of knowing for quite a while now. How long do you think we've been friends, Shannan? Like seven?
Oh, 7, 8 years, something like that.
She was just a baby little baby real estate agent when I met her.
Hmm.
I'm selling a couple homes, and I've seen her grow into a superstar. You sold about 30 million in real estate last year. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And you doubled your
Hello.
since joining EXP.
Hmm.
And you have 178 Facebook groups, is that correct?
That is very true. I do have that many.
Encompassing more than like 3 million people in the world.
Hmm.
And that's like consumers, right? These aren't
Do
real
you
estate.
know if they're home?
And you are
Yep.
Salvador's getting muted. I don't know what just happened. And 3 million people. And you're also like a VA specialist. You've done stuff like that. You've done education and training. What is wrong with people today? Like, this is madness. I've never had so many people jump in unmuted before. Anyway, here we are. First
Yeah.
First episode, first time caller, long time listener. Anyway, Shannan, you're incredible. So thank you for taking some time to be here. First
Thank
question
you.
I have for you, with all that success, since I have known you since you were a baby. Oh, and what maybe the most important thing that I left out is you've taken several people who've partnered with you recently to really great heights. They started with you
Mhm.
doing 2 to 4 transactions, and within about a year had increased their business to 22 to 26 transactions. Reminds me a lot of the Megan Niles story. A huge success. It's actually, in my opinion, it's way cooler to go from 2 to 4 deals to 25 deals ish than it is, right? You remember when you did that.
Hmm.
And like that's the difference between like quitting real estate and not quitting real estate. That's the difference between like paying your bills and not paying your bills versus like, going from 15 million to 30 million. Like that's great. You get like a nicer car or like whatever, but like it's not changing your life. So, first question I have, having done it yourself and helped these other people do it, if you are at that lower end of your career, if you are newer or you're struggling or whatever, like what what one thing should somebody be focusing on in order to have that kind of breakthrough? Like what's the secret sauce?
So I think the secret sauce really is focus on one thing and be proficient in that one thing before you move on to the next thing. I feel like a lot of people, they'll like, oh, I want Facebook, I want Instagram, I want open houses, I want door knocking, I want all of these things. And they spread themselves so thin that they become a jack of all trades and a master of none. So, get really good with what is your focus, what you're obsessed about, really focus on that and then move to another pillar.
How do you like that? All sounds good, right? I'm a fat
Hmm.
kid at heart, and I go to the buffet and it all looks good. So how do you help them like narrow their focus to something that they might become obsessed about?
So I ask them what they've done before in their past, right? Like, so if someone has no idea about social media, that's probably not where we're going to start you off at is social media. Saying, "Oh, you need a social media manager" is nothing. I'm all about teaching the how, not the why, because we get onto these calls, we get onto these conferences, and everyone, gives us all of these whys, right? And everyone comes back with all of these to-do lists and, oh, I want to do all these things. Well, nothing gets implemented because no one stops and slows down to teach people the how. There's no how in that, there's only a why. So if you're not good on social media, well, where are you good? Are you good at talking to people? Are you good at throwing parties? Are you good at, belly to belly things? Are you better on the phone? What is your comfortable level? And then let's make that to the next level. And then let's just keep, getting more proficient and more proficient.
So that's really good. I love that you want to be tactical, right? We do. There's so much theory. I just had a call yesterday, or I think, yeah, yesterday, where I was really like, let's stop talking vision, let's stop talking big picture. Like, let's just
Mhm.
talk action. Like, what are you actually gonna do, right? Whether it be, ads, or whether it be, networking, or whatever it is, right? You have to pick something and you have to actually like do the work, right? How um how often do you check in with these people to help show them the how, right? Is it like, hey, we're gonna talk about this for, once a week, and then you're gonna like, I'm gonna give you homework, or what kind of cadence do you find effective in helping people? Like, because you have to come alongside them, right? Like, I find it to be very difficult to be like, we'll just do this. And then like most people don't go do it, right? So how do you get them to
Mhm.
actually do it?
So really, people that are actually showing up and committing. I mean, I have plenty of people that I invite to things just like you that don't actually show up and commit, right? So I can bring you to water, I can't make you drink. So that's on you. I can, show you these different things, but if you're not committed, then I can't be committed to you to get you to the next level. So I need you to commit to me the way I commit to you.
How do you
So
protect your time to know that they're committed?
So what I do is on Fridays at 2 o'clock my time, I do a business building hour. Just like you do here, I do it Friday afternoon where it's before your weekend, before your things. But the reason why I do it on Friday is because we have our mastermind on Monday. We have your coaching call on Wednesday, which I always tell people these are the spots that you need to be at. And then, because I say it like this, you're going to get your ideas and your questions answered at the Fast Forward Movement Mastermind. You're going to go to Jon. Jon's going to coach you into bigger thinking. And then you're going to come to me on Fridays, and I'm going to help you set up a system to make it achievable.
That's so
And
good.
that's how I do it.
It would be
So
great if
this way,
it'd be so good if the people you were talking to were actually coming. That'd be awesome. That's
right? So, and that's how I go, okay, well, I'm actually kind of leveraging this off a little bit. So it's not 100% on me, it's on other people as well. But then on Fridays, if they're not necessarily coming and doing their things, I might on Tuesday next week be like, hey, how can I help you get to this point? Do we need to break things down a little bit more so it's a little bit more chunked that you're not feeling like so overwhelmed throughout your week?
That's really, really good. You had talked earlier about like not being a jack of all trades. So how, pick something you're obsessed with or pick something you're good at, lean into that thing that like you might have some more natural aptitude for or past experience with or passion for, whatever. At what point do they have it? At what point is it okay to start looking at that next thing? Like, how do you measure that? Is that a certain number of transactions? Is that like, where do you kind of say, okay, you've got social media down, or you're ready to make a hire in that region, or yeah, your networking is good. Let's do something new.
If you can take your system and it is so proficient that you can give it off to somebody else and it's successful, you can then start on your next pillar.
Okay, how many of those types of things do you have in your business?
I have 3 pillars.
Okay, and what are they?
So it's agent to agent referrals.
Mhm.
It is the Facebook um, marketplace and Facebook groups. And
Okay.
then it is the database referrals.
Okay, cool. And so database referrals is like past clients, your database, et cetera, that you market
Correct.
to
CRM, absolutely.
CRM people that they send you. And which one of the three did you start with?
So I actually started with agent to agent referrals.
And on that note, where are you based out of?
Nashville, Tennessee.
And you have expanded outside of that, though. You're licensed in 4 states, is that right?
So I'm licensed in Illinois, Alabama, Mississippi, Virginia, and soon to be Florida.
Okay. And are you accepting referrals in other areas or just primarily Nashville?
I accept referrals anywhere that I'm licensed
Okay,
because after I get the license, I then take a agent and place them on my team there. So
what's your favorite social media platform to connect on? Is it Facebook or Instagram or?
it's definitely Facebook. And the reason why I like Facebook better than Instagram or TikTok or something like that is because it's the only place that you can really go other than, Reddit or something like that, where you can get a group of people together that love you or love something. If you want to run, where's my running club? Where's these things? You're not going to have that in Instagram. You're going to have that on Facebook. I know everyone's like, oh, well, Facebook's so old. Okay, well, in 25 years from now, Facebook might not be a thing. So I'll shift then. I'm not 100% satisfied that I'm proficient and mastered in Facebook to take it to Instagram or to something else yet.
It's such an interesting perspective because I agree. Like, I felt so old being on Facebook and not being on Instagram, and I wasn't on Instagram forever. I honestly only joined in the last couple of years, and I've never liked the platform. And I loved what Facebook used to be about. And when Facebook really was about building communities and was pushing groups so heavily, that was my favorite era of any social media. Because again, you're right, you could be connected with like-minded people, and it was a place for community. And I feel like the modern version of Facebook is just so spoiled from that. However, getting back to social media in the last couple days, I will say like there's so much more engagement on Facebook. Like even people I know
Hmm.
that are good at Instagram have big followings and do good posts and actually generate some engagement, which is very hard. Um, Even their engagement is very flat, right? It's not, you're not getting to know people, right? So I posted a question today. I experiment a lot with social media and I really play around with what works. And I posted a question today, show me your favorite coffee mug. And the logic behind that is like, you don't have a favorite coffee mug that doesn't have a story. Like you don't have a favorite coffee mug that doesn't mean something to you. Like when it like that's not like so personal that you're like, I would never show anybody that, but it's also so personal, right? Like, and that was my intention behind that post is like I was like, my desire is to connect with people and to find people that I can have high quality conversations with, right? Like this one. My goal is to have 100 high quality conversations in the first quarter of 2025 as I kind of come off of what I would deem like a sabbatical and re-engage, with my community and with my friends and my sphere as much as I can. And so in trying to experiment with that, like I think Facebook is, even if you're like, oh, it's boomer, like whatever, I do think it just lends itself more to that. Um, what are your favorite things that people don't take advantage of when it comes to Facebook? Like, what are your kind of methodologies, or what are people kind of missing the boat when it comes to Facebook?
So, I mean, I think people really miss the boat on really, there's two sections of Facebook, right? You have your personal account and then you have a page or a group. Pages and groups are very different. I think pages on the one point are dead. Business pages, things like that. I mean, I have a business page. You can look up there, you can see all of my social media marketing. It gets me zero leads. Do I do it because everybody else does it? Absolutely. But it's not very, profitable per se, because when people are looking, they want to be able to connect with you. Consumers don't want to be like, oh, here's just a page. I don't know them. They're going to want to get to know you. So when you're doing your, groups now, where it's a city group, or it's a running group, or it's a book club, or, funny enough, my son is 18 years old and he was like, hey, mom, I'm going to do a Facebook account because I like Pokemon Go and I want to create a group where everyone can get together and play Pokemon. I
Oh,
mean,
that's
he's on Instagram, but he wants to come to Facebook now to do these things.
community. Yeah. Are you, just for some context, how much business, like how much money do you think you've made off Facebook in like the last year? Metric it to something.
I want to say maybe 250,000, and mainly because a lot of it is referral based,
Hmm.
because the leads that I'm getting aren't necessarily in my area. So my area, I might only get like 12 deals a year off of Facebook, but the brunt of everything is a percentage.
You're sending a lot of outbound mailbox,
Absolutely. Yes.
very leveraged towards the passive. And like how many referrals would you send like per month, or like how much business do you send out?
So we do polls, and each poll, we might get like 100 people raising their hand saying, hey, yes, I'd be interested in this. Maybe 50 of them would respond. 20, you would have really good conversations, but you're really only getting about 5 to 7 solid leads. So then whoever's in that area, I'm splitting them up between 2 or 3 agents and I'm giving, 5 to 7 out, 3 might close. And
Okay.
that is
Not even
about,
including closings, but how many referrals are you just distributing per month?
oh, so I mean, I probably 40.
Shannon's a great person to know, by the way, if you're not cluing in on this. She's sending out 40 referrals per month. And that's a big part of why probably you receive them back, right? Like what a great way
Hmm.
relationship with agents in markets all over the country. If you're sending people business, right? We talk about this with like small businesses too, right? Like help promote
Hmm.
somebody's small business and then they'll send you clients, givers gain, right? So that,
Absolutely.
that's a really, really good one. And then, so you've made 250 grand like recently off of this. This
Hmm.
is like a very lucrative thing. You don't pay for advertising on Facebook or social media platforms.
No,
So
I
it's
don't pay for any advertising anywhere.
so it's all organic. Everything you do is
Hmm.
all strictly organic. So that's great because that's very approachable for any agent. And then I assume you then leverage it, right? So what do you like this poll thing or like these groups?
Yeah.
Like you figured it out first, right? Like through experimentation, you're like the test pilot. And then once you kind of figure out how it works, then you bring in leverage to like maintain it so that you don't have to continue to like run that system.
Correct. And every step of the way, we've got knocked back down, right? Because, we'll get so far and then Facebook will take your group away. And you're like, I just grew that to 80,000 people. What are you talking about? Why did you do that? And then it's well, how can I have this many conversations? And you can't have 30 engagements an hour without Facebook quieting you for 2 hours. So it's all of these things that we've had to learn throughout this process where we're like, okay, we can only reach out to 17 people an hour during this post. And,
There,
and then
there a manual you've written on these like unwritten rules of like,
maybe, I don't know. Well, my staff knows at this point, but
yeah,
it was all these things that I've had to figure out where I'm just like, oh crap, like, the little slap on the hand from Facebook.
wow.
Um, but really, again, I go back to the point where when you can train somebody else that you're so proficient on it and someone else is successful in it, that's when you go to your next pillar.
If somebody wants to get into Facebook groups or Facebook engagement or whatever, would you recommend that they organically like grow a group, or would you recommend that they try and acquire, take over some kind of group and then rebrand it or something along those lines? Like, what's the best strategy if somebody wanted to start to generate business locally from Facebook by through this type of community type thing?
So, I mean, it's easier to go and try to get somebody else's group, but they're not going to give it willingly. Most people who have grown a group to like 30,000, something like that, they're like, hey, this is my baby. I'm not going to give it to you. So, how I do it is like, let's just say there's an area in, I don't know, San Francisco. I'm going to go and I'm going to look around everything in San Francisco. And then I'm going to be like, okay, where is there a group that there's about 5,000 people? And I look on it and there's a bunch of spam everywhere. And then that's the group that I go and I say, hey, the algorithm is already old. So it's once I reboot it, it's going to be on more for you pages of the algorithm.
Oh, you're saying because it's dead, by re-engaging with it, it will actually populate?
Yeah, because it's by age, it populates by age and it'll start being, recommended to people in that area. So then what you do is then you would go to that, you know, admin and be like, hey, I see that, you're not, do you want me to just take this over? Because let me tell you, people complain about everything. So by that time, that person, they've had 500 people reach out to them complaining that their post didn't go through, or there's this spam person, or this person hurt their feelings, or, like all of this stuff that you really just learn to ignore. Um,
Maybe they'll just give it to you.
yeah. So, and they'll just give it to you, or they'll be like, give me 50 bucks. I'm like, okay, cool. Give me your Venmo, right? I'll give you 50 bucks. I don't care.
So
So,
legitimately, are you like you're acquiring these like somewhat established sort of like dead groups for like 50 bucks, like
50
whatever?
bucks. Yeah. And then what I'll do is I will change the background photo. I will then go to businesses around the area and I will say, hey, I will let you advertise on the back of my page for free for 30 days, but you have to invite every person on your Facebook list to the
Oh,
group. And
that,
then, but now on top of it, now not everyone will accept their invitation. But guess what I just did? I just pulled all of that guy's information of knowing every single person. So now my VA is scraping all of that information that he's
how do you
inviting
how do you get to see that?
because as an admin, you can see who a moderator or somebody else invites to the group.
Now even though they don't accept, you now know all the people who actually like live locally or like you're tapping
Mm-hmm.
here, even though they're not accepting the request.
Correct.
That's so Jedi. That's really good stuff.
So, but now I put them into been verified or some type of script list. And now I have all their addresses.
Yeah.
And
So,
now I go, hey, you know, this business, I'll advertise for you and me. And now I'm making sure that, you know, if I wanted to do some type of call or some type of ad, I have all of that information.
all right, cool. I want to go to VAs in 1 second. Leah, what's your question?
Okay, Shannon, this is really good. I'm so happy I'm on the call right now because I love that I didn't realize you had so many licenses, and I just
Mhm.
think it's really cool how you're doing that. Like, that's so freaking smart. So I just wanted to ask you, so like let's say you get your license in California, so then you'll find
Mhm.
someone to join under you, and then
Mhm.
you just like, how are you getting those leads from the different state? Like, how are you doing that
Like
to like,
this?
So, you know, so I have
just like
Facebook
this?
groups. Yeah. So just like this. So I have Facebook groups all over. So I have them in San Diego, San Francisco, Sacramento, you know, LA, Ocean, every type of Facebook group I have all over the country. So I will farm them and then I have leads that are free leads from my team members that they can then shift, but then I get leads from other agents when they see that I'm producing. But the main reason why I get my other license is wherever is because I actually am a real estate consultant for trusts and they fly me all around the country. So if the property is more than $4 million, I'll get licensed in that state so I can run the deal myself instead of giving it a referral away. And then once I'm licensed, I then acquire a team member to then stay there. So now I can have my business name there and then I run them deals and then I fish for them.
And
That's awesome. Wow.
how did you get into the trusts?
So I actually went to a business conference that wasn't real estate, and I ran into a financial advisor who really liked, I guess, me, and she hooked me up with this one family who was a trust. Well, that trust apparently there's only like it started kind of in Chicago, but in Chicago, apparently there's only like three or four lawyers that actually work with significant trusts in the area. So once the lawyers fell in love with me, they kind of gave me to these other trusts and said, "This is who we trust."
Spirals. So get out of real
Mhm.
estate into other atmospheres and other environments and then build one key relationship. You never like that's that old thing in real estate, right? You never know where that
Yeah.
one key relationship is going to build into something. So then with these systems, right? And I'm sure you have a system for acquiring properties for these trusts. You're
Hmm.
systems based, right? You really
Hmm.
want to like build it out in a way that you can teach it to somebody else that they can duplicate it, et cetera. I agree these days, right? I always tell people to look at this micro team model, to look at, high value leverage. VAs obviously are a really good way to go. A lot of people say like, oh, I can't hire a good VA. Oh, VAs are the worst. I can't train them. Language barrier. They quit. They don't actually do their job. Like there's a million complaints about like why you might not want
Hmm.
VA. You clearly have had a lot of success working with VAs. So what aside from like, hey, reach out to Shannan if you need a VA, like what would you advise people? How should somebody think about that differently? What is it like a decent VA cost these days? Like give me some lowdown on that.
So I don't pay any of my VAs more than $3 an hour, truthfully. Like that's what I pay. Oh, I lied. I'm sorry. My VA manager makes 425 an hour, and that's because she manages the rest of the VAs. So just putting that kind of in perspective for you. Um, I feel if you're paying $5, $7 for a VA, they better be so freaking proficient at their craft that they're 10 times better than you. So that's where I'm at price wise, with VAs. I think people get scared because they're like, oh, well, the language barrier, this and that. Well, truthfully, there's not that much of a language barrier. These people are way smarter than us. They're on their second language and you only know one, so put that into perspective, right? Like most of these guys have master's degrees, bachelor's degrees, things like that. These are highly qualified individuals, but for some reason, mostly Americans think that just because they're not American, they are beneath them somehow, which is not true at all. These, my staff can run circles around me. And that's how I like it, right? Like the job of a CEO is to hire really smart people. And then when those really smart people can't figure out the problem, it's you to solve it. But you have really smart people in place first so they can take that problem first.
That's so good.
So
Um,
that's the thing with VAs.
and
Now, when it comes to employees, right? So I think another thing that people don't understand is, or I guess have a lack mindset about is it's just like hiring employees boots on the ground. Not everyone's going to work. Not everyone, 6 months in, their motivation might change. But just because that happens with a VA, it's just a bad taste in everybody's mouth for every VA, which in our world, boots on the ground is the same thing. So you attack the system. Why wasn't this done? You hold people accountable, and then you fire quickly, and then you rehire.
what do you use to track that type of stuff? You use project management software. You look at weekly, daily, like recaps, one-on-ones. Like, what are some of the tricks in order to kind of monitor and like work through all that?
So we do have Asana where everyone have tasks that they go through. We also have Screenshot Monitor. So if I ask a question in our group and I don't have a response within 5 minutes, I'm checking on Screenshot Monitor to see who's on and why they're not responding to me. We also have a group text in WhatsApp, and then at the end of everybody's shift, they have to do a checkout. But the amount of VAs I have, I actually have 3 different shifts. So one comes in at 6 a.m., one is a middle shift, and then one leaves at 11 p.m.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, I know we're already over the time you committed to. Do you have a couple more minutes?
Yeah, I mean, I'm here, so.
Time? All right, cool. So then, is this good, guys? Do you want me to keep going? Everybody having fun? Yeah. Okay, cool. Leah's got another question. I'll let Leah, I'll go through Leah's question and then we'll go back to this. Explain the power. So what are you posting in these Facebook groups once you take them over? Yeah, so all right, like you get a Facebook group, you have these people engaged, you talked about polls, like what kind of poll will you run?
So, at first, when I acquire the group, when I want to get it re-engaged to be able to put it on other people's feeds to want to join, I do something where it's going to hit them where they want it, right? Where I'm like, hey guys, I just want to let you know I'm closing the group from public to private, and I'm going to get rid of all the spam. Thank you so much for your help. And then I do it, and then I do add everyone. So now when you tag add everyone, it pisses half the people off, but I don't even want to say half. It might piss 10 people off, which cool. I'm blocking you and booting you anyway. I don't want to deal with your ass, so
So
I
we
have 4,000 other people, so it
the
doesn't
7
matter.
upset people get upset no matter what.
It doesn't matter.
And then you force that on them. And then it's something they would want to see, right? It's not, hey, who wants to buy a house at everyone? It's, hey, I'm gonna clean up. I'm the new sheriff in town. I'm gonna clean everything up. Just want to give you a heads up, and I won't abuse the everyone tag.
Correct. So that's kind of where that is. And then everyone in the woodwork starts coming out and they start hearting it and thank you so much and all these things. And I'm like, yeah, if you guys can just, if you see something, report it, you'd be a great help. And of course, everyone wants to be the man in charge. So they're like, yeah, I'm going to clean it up. And I'm like, who wants to be a moderator and help me? And then you get all this free help in cleaning up the spam because people just feel like they have this ego where they just can't help themselves. And I just love all over that, where I'm just like, I'll give you that that moderator status. Now, do not ever give anyone admin status, ever, unless you create the group. If you create the group from the very beginning, you can give anyone admin status. But if you're the second admin to own the group and you give somebody else an admin status, they can kick you out and take your page.
Right.
So everyone is moderator status.
And because somebody else originated these groups, so you're second. So they could be gone anyway, right? They don't even, original admin could just be gone completely, and then no one is ever safe in admin status. So everybody becomes a
correct.
Which technically doesn't really make a difference other than like title, except for this one power that you don't want people to have anyway. So no admins
Yeah.
except you. And then you re-engage the group. And then what does the poll look like once you've kind of cleaned it up, you've brought in the mods, you've like added some validity to it?
So it depends on exactly what I'm looking for, because you have like a few different things, right? Sellers, buyers, investors, recruiting, right? So you have 4 different topics, which has 4 different polls. So one poll for a seller would be, hey, I have people moving into the Middle Tennessee area. What would be a reasonable price to sell your home for? And then poll 400 to 500,000, 500 to 600,000, million to 3 million, whatever that is. And then people just vote because they're going like, oh, I just have to click on it. They're not answering, they're not doing anything like that. So if you have them vote, well, guess what? Well, now I have all of those votes. Well, now I'm taking all of those people, I'm putting them on a spreadsheet. Well, now I'm just been verifying all of those people, and now I have their address. Now I have a CMA. Now I'm in their DM saying, hey, is your house ready to list now, or do you need to do a few repairs?
What was the poll you received the most interaction with?
Seller posts, not buyers.
Seller, like meaning the one you just said, like,
Yeah.
hey, what would be an okay price for your home? Like,
Yeah.
and then they just put that, and they're not thinking it through.
Mhm.
They're going to somehow track them down and like make
Yeah.
it happen. And then again, I think it's very clear. Like, yes, you could do this on a very small scale by yourself, but like this is really a much better system when you have staff, right? When you have VAs.
Absolutely.
This is what your VA, like if you hired one VA and you had a couple of groups and that person just ran 90% of this and you helped with 10%, like that would be their job, right? Like that is
Yeah, absolutely.
track these people down, do the bin verified, like do the CMA, or like, do you have staff help with CMAs? How do you handle that? Like, cause that can be a
Yeah.
time intensive task for a lot of agents where they want to get like into the weeds and like, they want the world's most perfect CMA. And they're
Yeah.
like, they spend like an hour on it.
Yeah. No, go to Zillow, see what the Zestimate is, plug it in. And we don't even do that. So what we do is we go, okay, what did they buy it for? And I say, oh, the script actually says, oh, well, we sold a house in the area, a couple weeks ago, and they netted about 150,000. Would that work for you? Would you be happy with netting that amount? So we're actually not giving them a price on their home.
We're
giving them a net amount.
Think about what they might net to see if that's a number that would motivate them. And then again, you please fine tune the details when they actually get back to you and they're like, yes, 150 grand sounds great.
Absolutely.
I just want to hear your answer. I feel like I know the answer to this, but I just want to hear your answer. Like, what happens when somebody like replies and they're like, yes, I would love 150,000. And like, that's not achievable. Like that net is more than what they would actually net. Like, what do you say to that person?
I say, okay, well, great. Let's get you in for a listing appointment. And that time, once we get eyes on the property, we'll make sure that we come to an agreement for a price that will work.
And then you just let them know to be like, hey, the meat's not there on these bones.
Yeah.
Like, sorry.
Yeah.
Like, if they're sad about it at that point, then too bad. Like you have to have
they don't have to, right? But I now know that's my off-market listing. So now that's going to go onto a sheet, all of these addresses. So that's the other thing, because buyers, when they're like, oh, I want to work with other people. Okay, cool. I have a list of 70 off-market homes that nobody else has in the area. I have it though, because these people raised their hands to me. And I know if I brought them an offer and they didn't have to pay a seller commission, I can get a deal done.
So you've pocketed, that's like door knocking for somebody who says like, oh, I would sell if you could get me XYZ price. I'm not going to list with you, whatever. So you're not like advertising their property and it's not your listing, but you know that if you took a willing buyer, a signed buyer back to them and said, hey, I have this signed buyer. I know we had spoken, like, it'd be one agent, whatever. I think we could make your numbers work. Like then they're a secret seller.
Yeah.
And you can do whatever you want with that because again, they're not signed. So no bid.
Correct.
That's cool. All right. So we talked about VAs. We talked about Facebook community. This was my question. Facebook Marketplace. Is there any value in that?
I mean, not really. I mean,
that ship's kind of sailed. Like we're not putting our listings on there. We're not generating, like everything you're building is really through these groups and just collecting large amounts of people. I loved your tip about adding in the free advertising. Hey, you can free advertise, but here's the caveat, you have to invite your people, which of course, like they're like, what harm is it to me to invite people to a Facebook group? And then you're, through your power of the VA who has to do some of that heavy lifting, you're now pulling in a lot more contacts that can then be marketed to. How do you market to those people? Do you try and email them? Do you mail direct? Do you Facebook message? Like what the heck happens to those people?
So it depends on, which area it's going to, right? So if it's going directly to my team and it's not going to, like, let's just say Houston,
Yeah,
Texas,
it's like,
because
it's local.
yeah, so if we do the local ones, what we're doing is we're getting their emails, because when we've been verified them, their phone numbers, their emails, and their addresses come up. So we're now putting them on drip campaigns that they can exit out of if they want to. They can opt out all they want. And now I'm just flooding their, with a drip campaign. I don't know what's going on with my light, but anyway. So we're just giving them drip campaigns over and over again. But then what else we're doing is we are making sure who has a do not call number and who does. The do not call list numbers we don't call, but then other times is we will do what's called like a slide broadcast,
Mhm.
and we will send voicemails to their phones inviting them to our open houses for the weekend
So you're just
or
building
whatever it is.
you're just building mass market stuff that you can do as compliantly as possible,
Yes.
to be able to reach out through verified. It sounds like like keys here are like been verified and a VA, like a competent VA, are really important, plus a Facebook account. Do you have any other like tools, tech, gadgets, like something that you recommend? Not even have to be around this specific like resource, but like overall, like, is there anywhere these people should go spend their money?
So, I mean, I really don't like spending money, truthfully, so
Right.
the
You're a
least
good
amount of
person.
money.
You're a good person to ask, because like you're
Yeah.
not out wasting a bunch of money. So like where's the value? Like what is really worth it besides those two things?
The VA is more than anything. Make sure you're actually paying Facebook to Meta. You get that like blue check on your Facebook account,
Mhm.
because they're going to not take your Facebook account the more that you interact.
Sure.
So there's that. But we've learned the power of getting different fake accounts. So I have about 7 different fake accounts with, beautiful women on there, which really is just AI pictures of me with different hair and changing noses and different things. Like,
Okay.
so, because when I'm messaging people, instead of them bogging down my personal account, my VAs are in these fake accounts messaging these people. Now, it's all compliant because it's coming back saying that they're employees of Maxwell Properties and they're a real estate agent,
Mhm.
which it's just me. It just has a different
Right.
picture per
It's a
se.
different,
So
it's one of your different accounts, technically, like whatever. Okay. That's good.
yes, but advertising wise, you have to make sure that, it's like one click away that
Yeah, yeah,
says
yeah.
that
You
you're
have
a
to be
real estate agent.
close to that. Yeah.
Yeah. So we make sure all of that is compliant. It's just a different photo per se, and it's a different count. That has been the best for us, but really 100% truthfully, the best thing that you can do is actually just get yourself a website. It doesn't matter what it is, GoDaddy, whatever it is, something cheap, and then get the emails where I don't know, it's like $10 a month and you can get up to 400, 500 emails. And then you're just going to create accounts, because these other accounts, let's just say I do a poll and the poll starts to go dry. I'm going to go into my fake account and I'm going to go answer it. And then I'm going to go comment. So this way it pulls it back up onto the algorithm.
You're using your own accounts to tickle the algorithm when you want it
Yes.
to be redistributed.
Yes.
That's a great tip
So,
that you can use. You can use that on your own content, guys. So like,
mhm.
so if you guys look at my most recent post, I posted something that I knew would garner a lot of attention, and I saved it for the right time. And uh, the trick is to continue to engage within each post. So that's what she's talking about. So if somebody comments and I go in and answer all the comments right away, then that post can die. But if I respond, and ideally I can engage and ask a question or something, and then that person comes back and responds, then that's going to bump the post each time. And so typically I'll respond to 1 to 3 comments per hour or several times a day, whatever I have bandwidth for, in order to continue to renew that content. So that one post that I posted earlier this week, I have every belief that I'm going to continue to benefit from that post for weeks, just because of how engaging it was. Now I'm not posting other content, but that other content doesn't have to be as substantial, because that's sort of like the anchor for that, right? And that can be the same thing that you do on your own page, that can be done within groups, etc. You kind of make me want to get back into Facebook groups, Shannon. I might
You're welcome.
I might go down that rabbit hole. That's something I've been thinking about. That's cool. What is the biggest like don't do this, biggest mistake, like quick hit, like don't do XYZ? What would you tell people not to do?
So I would not go and message 10 different groups and start paying like all of this money. Like if someone's like, oh, I want $2,000 for this group. No, it's not worth it. You can grow it yourself in the same way that I'm telling you to do it for free. It's going to take you about 6 months, but it's, hey, now you're the admin that no one can kick out. And the difference with this is, which all of you that are my friends already on Facebook, you probably already know this. When I start a new group in the area, I'll start a new group. You do 20 posts for engagement, right? And then you invite everyone on your friends list. 10% of them are going to jump on, but it's going to create the algorithm. Then when there's about 500, 600, 700 people, you then do the business to business. And then you do this for like 3 or 4 months with different business partners. And then you grow, from that way. And then the algorithm starts up. So you'll be able to create your own page within 6 months for free. Or let's just say a VA, right? You're going to hire a VA, $3. So what's that? That's $500 a month, and you'll get a better, cleaner page algorithm with more people in it that are going to be more towards what you're wanting than you would buying somebody else's nightmare.
That's cool. What's your big focus for 2025, or what's something that you're committed to achieving this year?
So my biggest thing that I'm looking to do is, one, I want to get more trusts under my belt, because that's just a really fun gig, truthfully.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not crying when they tell me that I need to go to St. Thomas, and look at a house, right? So, that's fun. But I think I really want to focus more on, education pieces for people underneath me who are looking to grow. I feel like at a certain point, like you said, when you go from 2 to 25, that is like life changing. But when you go from 25, to 60 deals, or 25 to 40 or something like that, it's not necessarily life changing like it is from 2 to 25, right? So once you hit these goals, it's now, how can I help other people achieve it? And that's kind of more of my focus.
Cool. So we're building some replicatable systems that will help more people make real estate a career,
Mm-hmm.
food on their family's table, and all that stuff.
Yeah. Well, and I think, everyone listens to the negative and everyone listens to the noise. Forget the noise. Like there's noise all the time. Every day there's a different news, there's a different thing. That's not what we're focusing on. If we're focusing on actually helping people, let's just help people.
What's a book you love?
I love um well, I love Giftology. I think that's a great book. And I love the book The Power of Moments.
Okay, those are Power Moments is really good. I haven't heard of Giftology, but I love that. That's exciting. I love it when
Yeah.
something I haven't heard of before.
Yeah.
Do you have a podcast you love?
So I actually I like the CIA podcast.
Okay. No, like,
with the
hey, you gotta live your life too, right? So it can't all just be business. Like all right, so we got the CIA podcast, uh,
hmm
and we've got Giftology and the Power of Moments. And then do you have a favorite like conference you've been to, or like maybe even non-real estate, like something that was like a great, like you were really glad you went to?
So I was really glad I went to the entrepreneurship That's the conference name. I don't know like if it's going to be another one, but that to me really was powerful because there's so many. So I think real estate agents, and me included at some point, was like, oh, well, like this is it. No one else knows my business like this. Well, guess what? Like there's businesses, making so much more money than us. They have the same concepts. They have the same, things. The only difference is we're actually making more money per project than they are to scale. So if you actually listen to these people speak and you go, wow, if I just took this one little nugget and put this into my business, the amount of money I would make would be significant to the amount of money they would make. That was very eye-opening for me.
Yeah, if you're going to sell something, sell the highest ticket item, right? If you're working off commission. And so like these people are selling stuff, but maybe not selling as much. Like we could all learn a lot from, car sales or jewelry, or, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
everybody's selling something. That's cool. All right. Any questions from the people here? Alicia, you want to ask a question?
How could you tell? Hi. I love that you were touching on the how and like the action of things. This is where I get caught up. And I know I'm not unique, so thank you for touching on that. So I guess my question is, are you able to walk me through what it looks like? I don't even know if I'm going to phrase this correctly. If you have a vision and you're like, okay, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to create a step-by-step process for this. Can you walk me through kind of your thought process in doing that? Like, are you one of those who like backtracks, or are you like, I'm going to put it all on paper and then I'm going to, there's so many different ways of doing it. How do you do it?
So I do backtrack. I'm a visionary, and I usually like double down on everything. I go, how big can I make this? And then let's make these systems very tiny so I don't have to do them, because not everyone can read my mind. So, and that's always been my struggle with how do I get what is in my brain on paper? And I change my systems almost 10, 15 different times, so I'll say, okay, like for instance, I don't know, let's just say we want to do an event, right? So, okay, what's going to be a great event for our area? Oh, well, we could do a flower arrangement event. We could do a Botox and brunch event. We could do, you know, uh, daddy daughter day. Let me teach you how to do braids event. Like we can do all these different things to get the public engaged, right? So I'm like, okay, well, this is my big thing. Well, how do I do this? So there's the event, and then I'm going like, how do I increase that thought, right? And that's where I go, okay, well, here's my three visions, my three options. And then I go, okay, well, now how am I going to execute what I want? Like what's the A, B, and C? And I'm like, okay, well, for the Botox and brunch, I'm going to have to find a nurse. I'm going to have to find a location. I'm going to have to find, sponsors. I'm going to have to find brunch. I'm going to have to find these things. And then that's one system. But now you have to bring that down a little bit more. Okay, so how am I going to find that nurse? Okay, I'm going to have to make sure that someone, Google's 5-star nurses around the area, that are injectors, right? So, and then I'm like, okay, once the 5-star, okay, do any of these have plans for discounts? Right? Like, so it's like every step of the way, you're just getting more detailed and more detailed and more detailed. So, you have this, large plan that you're not realizing that even as you go, it's still not small enough. Like you go, oh, well, here's this great, and that's fine. That's still a what, not a how. Until it's so detailed where it's like, I log into my computer, I go onto Facebook, I create this by clicking on this button. That's a how. So that's a how where I can literally give something to you and you don't ever have to talk to me again about it. So until it's broken down to that point, you have a what.
You have no idea how much you just helped me right now. So thank you for that. I thank you. That was great.
You're welcome.
That makes me so happy. Does anybody else have a question? And you can ask us anything. How are you finding, Leah, how are you finding these groups to take over?
So, I don't take over a lot of groups, truthfully. I create most of them just because I have a control problem. So I like the control of being the main admin from the very beginning. But the groups that I do find is I just look in the area.
Yeah, search for
So,
groups in that area and look for ones that have a lot of spam.
mhm,
Then approach the people. You have no idea how many Facebook groups there are out there. So like start with
it's ridiculous.
start with the location. You look
Yeah.
for, you go to groups, you do search, you type in the location, whether it be sublocation, like, Fort Myers, or a larger location, right? Like you just have to, there's different ways to play with the different geographies. And then the geography will tell you the groups that have the geography based within it. And then like, right, like, Naples dog lovers, right? Or
hmm
Naples hiking or Naples whatever. And then you just go through each group to be like, which one sucks? Because if it's good, they're not going to want to give it to you. But you have to look for the crappy one that actually has like a following or whatever. Daniel, what's your question?
Yeah, so I'd love to. I'm excited to share your success story. I definitely got to learn a lot here. So what are can you list like for me to like share with people like how many different like sources of income do you think EXP has helped you generate with to generate wealth? Can you list like a whole list like how
So
many
I
ways
have
EXP
four
is helping
main,
you?
yeah, so I have four main pillars. And the reason why I say pillars is because I obsess over perfecting a pillar before going to another, to another thing, right? So my main pillars are agent to agent, just like I said before, the Facebook groups and um, recruiting, of course, and then my database. Now, coming to EXP, I really didn't have a database. I pretended that I had a database, nothing really, good or anything of that nature. I didn't have any of the Facebook groups. And really, the Facebook group is, that was really people feeding into me to let me know it's okay to think out of the box. Really, like they gave me the power to be like, hey, you don't have to be exactly what this book says to do. Like just because we're teaching everybody, hey, this is how we do it, that's fine. I learned very much at my other brokerage, getting to 16 million as a single agent. Um, but truthfully, even with that, I didn't really learn very much from my broker. I learned a lot of that from Jon, and people that I surrounded myself with, because I was always about, learning and education and growing. So I don't want to say it's necessarily EXP. EXP is 100% it. It's who I aligned with in EXP and those connections that brought me to other people. So fast forward movement. Jon has always, I think I met Jon when I was, a year in the business. So he has been in my corner, my, champion from day one, getting me to these points. It's Byron in, the chief officer in EXP. It's everyone who takes the time to feed into me and makes me feel like when I say things that I'm not just being a silly person, right? Because sometimes, let me tell you, the amount of eyes that glassed over when I would talk to people about Facebook groups and they're just staring at me, they
Sounded
had no idea.
sounded a little crazy on day one, like for sure, but like you've definitely figured it out and like proven that it works. And I think like it's another really unique source. And you were already a proficient on Facebook, right? So the problem
Yeah.
is you were proficient in an area that everybody was proficient in. So then it became like we're all trying to fight over like one scrap of like leftover hot dog versus like you're like, well, there's a whole thing here. Like, what if we just like tried a different way to go out and like find some business? Like rather than fighting every real estate agent on the planet to do the same dang thing, like that really made a huge difference.
Yeah. And I think that's been, in a whole for all of it, right? Because from the very beginning, and Jon kind of, told me, this. He was like, look, you're going to throw a rock and you're going to hit 5,000 agents. How do you stand out from them 5,000 agents? And that, sunk in more than anything, through my process on growing is, so it's always been, how do I stand out from 5,000 agents?
Wow. send Shannan your Nashville, Tennessee referrals and any of the other states that she mentioned, as well as reach out to her. Obviously, she's very generous about how she can help agents grow their business. And if you happen to be watching some recording of this and you're a real estate agent, you're not with EXP and you're considering joining EXP, I hope you see why Shannan would make an incredible sponsor. She really cares about her people. She's an excellent coach. She really helps people figure out the how, not just the why, and get granular and walk through that. Thank you again, Shannan, for being with all of us today. I know everybody here got a ton of value out of that, and that was really fun. Did everybody like today? Was this
Yes,
was
that was awesome.
a fun
Yes,
departure,
yes.
change of pace?
Yeah, that was
Cool.
awesome.
I'm super excited that we were able to do it. Thanks for being my guinea pig, Shannan, and I'll make sure everybody's
Sure.
recording, and I'll keep everybody posted on what I cook up next.
I'm
Okay,
helpful
great.
for
Thanks for
referrals in
having me.
Wisconsin.
See you guys. Thanks again. Bye.
Wisconsin referrals over here.